Hey everybody, welcome to a new episode on the channel. I was on YouTube and I saw this recommended to me. I have no idea what this is about. So I've never seen this and I don't know really what this is truly about, but I'm gonna watch it and then based on what it is and give my reaction on it. So alright, let's take a look.
Good afternoon. Some of you already know who I am. My name is Brian Campbell. I've lived in Hanceville 62 years, and I was a victim of this police department. I will preface my remarks by saying, not one day, not 1 minute in my life have I ever been in any kind of trouble. Maybe a speeding ticket. On May the 20th, 2023, I was caring for my wife. Some of you know me. I've known some of you since you were children.
Wow.
I was caring for my wife with Alzheimer's and my disabled daughter. On that day, an incident happened at my residence. Hanceville was dispatched. 2 officers approached my home, and I didn't know why they were there. I inquired why they were there. Did not get a response, so I proceeded to close the door to my house.
Wow.
Upon doing so, one of the officers took his foot, jammed it in the door, and forced his way into my home.
Wow.
Asked me to step outside. Upon which time, there were 2. One of them was very professional. I have told him countless times how I was so pleased with the way he behaved. The other one was the officer from hell. He's not currently on this force because during all this, I prevailed in a lawsuit that took over 1 year and $17,000 of my money to defend my.
Wow. I know, sorry for stopping, but this is what I don't get. Like, if it's in a reverse, well, let's just say it's not in reverse, but if something happened to you or you did something wrong, it happens so quick to get fines, charges against you so quickly. But if it's a cop, even if you see it happen quickly, it takes so much work to see actually something really happen. And it's like the rules, they enforce them if it's against us, but if it's against themselves, it takes so long. They prolong it just to make sure like you get to a point where you can't handle it no more financially and then you just give up. And it's wrong. Like, regardless if you think you did something right or wrong, if in your eyes you see it's wrong, don't say it's right and then just so you can just cover for your officer. Like, I've seen countless videos where they stick their feet in through your door, and if you try to close it, then they arrest you because they say you assaulted them. When in fact, if you don't have a warrant, like, why put your feet in there? Or if you have a warrant, just show us the warrant so you can get in. But that's not always the case. Whether they are there for a hearsay or not, they usually like to force themselves in. Well, this is for the bad ones. But the other part that makes me mad at times also when I watch some videos, like he said, there was a professional cop among them, but he didn't do nothing. He stood there. Or in general, like, you'll see, okay, oh, this one will say, yeah, I'm a good cop, but you see your partner doing something that is not legal. Stop him. Or even, let's say you don't even look at the law, like, generally speaking, if he didn't break the law and the cop don't have a reason to be in the house, yeah, if you want to talk like a respectable person, you don't have to stick your feet in. And then if you see your partner is doing something that is not procedure or not right, just, hey, listen, man, yeah, let's de-escalate, talk like normal. Let's not escalate things. But anyways, wow, it took a whole year. I mean, there are some other ones that take so long as well, even longer than this. But yeah, if it's us, they charge us like instant, that same day. But when it's the cops, they allow them to resign, spend years. Wow, that's just wow.
Myself. That officer hit me from behind, which I can't hardly still walk, with his knee, took me to the ground, and beat me mercifully.
Wow.
My attorneys have the photographs. Coleman Hospital has the records. I was handcuffed and roughed up really bad. Placed in a police vehicle. It was May, so it wasn't very hot. It was not running. No air conditioning on, but I began to hyperventilate. I'm a 2-time survivor of cancer and a heart patient. While I was in that vehicle.
Man, this is upsetting to watch on several reasons. I know I've not seen, well, I don't know if there's a footage from the body cam of the police officer showing all of this. I'm pretty sure if they do, they wouldn't release it right away. But this, it says it took a year for the case to finalize. But what's upsetting about it is that one day I will get old and I will be at his age, whatever his age is, and this can happen to me or any of us. And not only that, I have parents as well that are aging. Imagine they have to go through this. And if you try to defend yourself, they charge you for it. That's the crazy part about this. Like, it's like you have to take the beating and hope you survive. And it shouldn't be like this. Like, what are you achieving by beating him? And you put him in handcuffs. That's the part about that upsets me as well. Instead of attending to his pain or suffering, I guess, yeah, they'll say it's procedure. They gotta handcuff you for their safety. But you put him in this situation in the first place. Where's the threat? He said he didn't do nothing wrong. He didn't know why they were there, and he asked, why were you there? They didn't tell him. Man, wow. I don't even know the whole story. I already feel bad watching this. Man. And the thing is, I think the biggest issue we have in America with police officers, and whoever's watching this, if you have connection, you can talk to the people that have changed the laws. Here's my thing. I think it goes with qualified immunity, because they'll beat you up, and because there is no accountability of action that will be taken against them. Like, for instance, okay, you beat him up, then we're gonna go for your personal funds, like your pension, things like that, or your personal saving you have, because they know none of this will be touched a lot of time, or I'd say 99% of the time. Then it's like they have a green light to keep doing wrong, because they know, hey, I'll get to resign, nothing will happen to me. Like, I know at my job, if I do something bad and I cause the company like hundreds of thousands, they'll let me go real quick. I can guarantee that, because I have some colleagues that were let go for so little less. But you've caused someone all this pain, and the medical bill gonna be really big too. But you sue them, guess who pay? Me and you. But not them, really. And even if you fire them, a lot of time they go out of state and work somewhere else. It's just so wrong. So they should just change this rule where a cop beats you up or he get in your home and abuse you, and then they're not liable for what they have done.
When one of them finally returned to the vehicle, I was in real bad shape. An ambulance was dispatched and the paramedics. Well, the only problem I had was I couldn't breathe. Once I got air, I was fine. I was then taken by the officer who brutally beat me up to Hanceville Jail. On the way to the jail, and I was never allowed to explain anything to him. I was never told I was under arrest. I was never told anything till I got on my way, well, actually, till I got here. On the way, that officer said to me, "Men like you are nothing but pieces of human increment." And that's not the words he used. I was married to my wife 52 years. I never touched her, ever. The incident involved, and I was trying to tell them, with her Alzheimer's, she didn't know what she was doing and tried to exit the vehicle while moving. I pulled her back by her hair, and I was so admitted to that. And that constituted, in your officer's opinion, domestic violence. Anyways.
Wow. If anybody watched this and you don't feel sad, I don't know what's wrong with you. Like, I don't cry easily. I've always been like that when I was little. But watching this, I'm fighting really hard not to shed tears, because seeing him cry, man, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Really ridiculous. All right, so
and that was all perpetrated by a 911 call where the person hung up. When I got to the jail, my abuse continued. Maybe it's procedure, I don't know. I was handcuffed to a bench right out there for 3 hours. I say this somewhat shamefully, but I'm a cancer survivor and I'm incontinent. And while I was there, I desperately need to go to the bathroom. I requested from the officer, and you know, the city hall is right down the hall. And I was handcuffed, was denied. I urinated on myself. Then I was placed in filthy.
where is the humanity? Like, would you want someone to do this to your own family? Like, how can this be procedure? This is what I'm talking about. Like, you'll have the captain or the chief talk about, oh, this was not based on procedure, or we, what's the word they usually use? I'm appalled. I'm all this and that, but it comes from the top. This is how the whole system is. Like, fix it. You beat the person up. I bet he doesn't even tell the truth. And he has to use the bathroom. You wanna even allow him. Where is the humanity? Like, how can you? Oh my goodness. I don't know why this was recommended to me. This is really frustrating to watch because I could not be a cop and then standing there and watch all of this happen and then not say something or even stop it. Like, because of who I am in real life, like, there are things I will not tolerate. I just wouldn't be able to stand there seeing you beating that person up and then take him to jail, do all of this, and causing him to do all of this on himself. Like, he needed to go to the bathroom, you wouldn't allow him. And then sitting there with all your bodies wet. Oh, it's so humiliating and embarrassing. And degrading, man. Goodness. And you can't tell me there's nothing wrong with this. Like, to the point where, hey, we gotta change procedures. Like, we gotta put stricter policies or change the laws where cops are not allowed to abuse people like this and then nothing happened to them. Or they'll get fired, terminated, and then that's it. Like, come on, man.
Rags, and I'll tell you, I've traveled all around this world, and that's no lie. as a buyer for a major retailer. I've been in every country you can imagine. The facilities in this jail, and I hope they've changed, were filthy. Were feces on the wall, feces on the water fountain, feces all over the floor. Looked like it hadn't been cleaned in 5 years. Have any of you ever went in that jail and looked at it? I don't care if you're a criminal, you deserve better treatment than that. I was denied food and water because on the way to jail I said, why don't you just shoot me and take me out of my misery? I was put on suicide watch. No food, no water, no nothing. A kind lady jailer come up and had seen my record. She said, Mr. Campbell, I'll get you some water and they don't have to know. She said, I looked at your record. You've never been in any kind of trouble. I said, yes, ma'am, when I was younger, I got speeding tickets, but that's the extent of it. Long story short, I finally talked to one of the 3 chiefs that's no longer here. Ha ha. This gentleman, chief, was a reasonable man, and I finally got to explain my story to him. And he was very empathetic, and I know it was only my word against your 2 officers. And he said to me, I will make a phone call and see what I can do, because I found out that my stay would be 2 days in jail, 48 hours. And I was charged with 2 felonies, domestic violence and resisting. I was told my bond.
What? Oh my goodness. I'm finding hard to not let tears come out of my eyes. It's just, while I'm listening to this, it's ravaging inside of me. I don't want to keep stopping the video to keep talking, but how can you not talk? Watching this, I wasn't even there. I feel like I was there, experiencing this. Like, what? And he's right. Even if you were a criminal, where's the humanity? Like, I know this is not a spiritual video, but, like, forgive one another, treat each other like you like to be treated. Where is all of that? It's like when you become a cop, or for the bad ones. I can't even say for the good one, because he said there was a professional one that was there. I will assume he was a good one, right? He didn't do nothing to stop the beating. But anyway, yeah, it's like whether you were a criminal or not, like, would you want your family members to be treated like this? Wow. And no matter what your skin color is, I know this is not about the skin color as well. I know sometimes people go hard or advocate more if it's a certain color skin. I'm not into that. But I believe before the true living God, we should all be treated right in the way you'd like to be treated. Like, oh, I can't. Nah. I couldn't be a cop seeing this. I'd probably get fired the same day, because I'm stopping that dude that's beating him up like that. Nah, that couldn't be me. Yeah, man, just stop. Wow. And this happened where? Hanceville.
Was $2,000. So they proceeded to put me in that filthy jail. I spent the night in that jail. Next day, the chief did as he said. My magistrate came down. It was a Sunday. I had the money cash on me, $2,000. She said, pay your bond and you can go home. I went to pay my bond, and this may be the procedure. If it is, I've never been in trouble. I don't know. But I was told, we cannot take cash on the weekend. So that told me you can't even trust your own police department with cash. But if you use a credit card, we'll let you go home. Reached in, got my credit card. Oh, but by the way, do you council members know this? It's $200 more if you use your credit card.
Oh, wow.
So I paid. I'm ready to go home. By the way, by this time I was not allowed a phone call. I was never told anything about my charges. I called my son. Some of you know him. He's an upstanding citizen, was once a manager of LP down here. He's now a private contractor. He said, Daddy, they're not going to let you go home. I said, what do you mean they're not going to let me go home? He said, well, they told me that you're going to be transferred to Coleman Regional. I said, why? They have you under a suicide watch. You have to be evaluated. So Sunday evening, and believe me, I'm no harm to anybody, and was certainly no threat to those two policemen. Either one of them could have taken me easily. I'm at Coleman Regional. I'm kept overnight. When the doctors saw my beat up body, they asked me, what could have possibly happened? And I told them. The only good thing that came out of that is the nicer of the two officers was the one who transported me. On the way to the hospital, I said, young man, tell me how you could possibly think that he could think that I was resisting. His exact words, and I'll never forget them. Because my wife and my wife was dying then. He said his perception was that you were resisting. I said, you were there.
Wow. You see this? So he did all of this to this gentleman because he assumed he's gonna do something to him pretty much. Tell me I did not hear this. So you got beat up because, hey, I assume you might refuse or you might abuse me. Like, you that scared you gotta inflict pain on somebody else? My goodness, man. This is getting more upsetting after every second.
Long story short, it came time for discovery. I didn't know anything about discovery. Paid two attorneys. They said, here's what's going to happen. They got to present their evidence, and you can present your evidence. Well, Kathy, and a lot of you know my wife, Kathy, a better woman never was. She was on her deathbed. And I called up my attorney, Johnny Berry, and I said, I'm supposed to be there. He said, Brian, don't worry about it. He said, me and Brandon will be there. You don't have to be there. So I stayed with my wife with hospice. I wasn't there. In the meantime, my wife died. Wow. A month and a day later, my daughter died.
Wow.
On the night I was sending pictures to the funeral home, two more Hanceville officers came to my residence to arrest me again.
What?
They came to arrest me for bond forfeiture because I didn't show up on that court hearing. My attorneys were both there. They represented me. I paid them well. I'm making these arrangements and getting ready to be taken to jail. My daughter was being buried the very next day. Fortunately, I know Kenneth now, and I wasn't in any shape to call him, but my son Kevin called and he said, look, my daddy, we just lost my sister. You know, he's a good man. Anybody knows me. He said, they just leave him alone? Never told me what the warrant was for, by the way. Kenneth told him, or I don't know if it was Kenneth or who it was, someone later told me the chief told him to just go on and let me turn myself in. Okay, I called my attorneys and told them what happened. I still don't know what the warrant's for. I didn't know it was bond forfeiture. I go on to the cemetery and I buried my daughter. On that day that I buried my daughter, I went to Hanceville, down here to this courtroom, and that judge, who was a joke, that sat right there, read me the riot act and told me, had me handcuffed immediately, and told me he's going to put me under the jail. You were remodeling, so I sat handcuffed out here in the hall for another 3 or 4 hours. During that time, I was told I was being arrested for bond forfeiture. I said, what bond? They said, well, you didn't appear for the discovery. No argument from my part would be heard, because I'm just an average citizen, like all these people here, an innocent average citizen. I was transported to county. I sat in county the night of my daughter, she was buried, sat in county, and was going to be put in jail under no bond. 0, because I forfeited my bond, allegedly. My son knows the sheriff real well and the chief deputy. He called and he said, look, I don't know what's going on. And you know, I'm not going to say my dad's innocent or guilty, but we just buried my sister. And they told me to disrobe, go take a shower, put me in the rubber shoes. Well, get ready to put me in the orange jumpsuit. And the desk deputy said, Mr. Campbell, today's your lucky day. And I'm thinking, you just don't know. It's 7 or 8 o'clock at night. I said, well, tell me. He said, you've been released, ROR. I think that's released on your own recognizances. And I was released. We come back in front of this same judge. It continues almost for an entire year at more financial expense. And I'll conclude what I have to say by your police, untrained, uninformed, and you, like the lady before me said, you're the accountable ones. I was a manager of a major retail company, top level, and the buck stopped at me. The decisions to make these people in the roles they're in fall on each of you. Yes. And I ask again, have any of you ever looked inside that jail? And if it's changed, I'm shocked. But anyways, what I have to say don't amount to much, but I got my day and I could say my piece. My son said, well, at least 100 people said, you ought to sue them. Well, in the first place, I'm not the kind of man that sues anybody. I've never done anybody wrong in my entire life. I'm a Christian and I believe in treating people Christ-like.
Amen.
Okay? And I didn't want a pound of flesh, but I never got so much as I'm sorry this happened to you. And Mr. Sawyer, I've known you a long time. Another incident happened, and I had you come to my residence. At that time, you brought the new chief with you on this other issue. I told you a little bit about this story. Your exact words to me in the conversation, what do you expect me to do? And my response was, so help me. If you got a Bible, I'll swear on it. I said, what I want you to do is clean up this town. Clean up this mess. I said, the people of this town deserve it. I'm just one individual. And nobody really cares what I have to say. Imagine if it happened to you, losing your child and your wife, and then being drugged through this crap, and then financial expense on top of that. You know what your response was to me? Do you remember, Jimmy?
I remember exactly the way.
Well, if I'm lying, I'm dying. You looked at me and said, that's why this man right here is the new chief. He is going to clean it up.
Shit. Shit.
He cleaned it up, all right.
Yeah, he did.
And I would have never said another word about this. In fact, my son said, Daddy, don't sue him. You've been through too much. It's going to cost you money. It's going to cost you more hurt. I can barely walk as it is from the injury to my back from that officer. And I agreed with him after praying a lot on it. But when I saw this nonsense, I said, maybe my story's not good. And maybe they'll put me off as a fool like some other people that have stories. But I swear to God, every word I told you is the truth. One thing I left out. At that time, you had 8 police officers. Because the chief told me himself, you had 8. That day, while I was sitting in that squad car in my driveway, and there's a man in this room that can testify to the fact who's my neighbor. 5 squad cars showed up, 7 of your 8 officers, and you would have thought I was a murderer or a drug dealer. Wow. Fact. Then one of them told my neighbor in this room, who I don't know if he's going to speak or not, but that night before I buried my daughter, or the funeral, when they came with that warrant and they left, my good neighbor came over to check on me, see if I was okay. When he was walking through my yard, and if I'm misquoting you, sir, you know who you are? He said, one of them officers stopped me, or I asked him what's going on, and he said, Hanceville Police, we're not through with Mr. Campbell yet. Is that professionalism? I say no. So I conclude my remarks. I love this town. I wouldn't have brought my family here and lived all this time if I didn't. And some of you lived here longer than I have. It's got to have an input to it. If it don't, it's just a continuation of the same thing. And it's happened too many times in my lifetime. And it got worse in the last 3 years. Anyways, I conclude my remarks. I appreciate your time. I hope this sinks in. Yes, I'm mad and angry and upset. Put yourself in my position. How would you feel?
Very good.
Let me see if there's any more before I say any last word.
Officers' names?
The one that beat me up so bad, they let go immediately. I've still got the paperwork in my home. The other officer was a good officer. I will not deny it. He was a wonderful police officer.
What's his
And he
name?
may be one of the ones they kept. But he was professional. Right down on.
What's his name?
I got it at home. I don't know. But I'd be glad to give it to the press or anyone else that wants to know.
Very good story. Very good.
Well, this is the end of the video. The title of the video, I'll put the link in the description and everything. It seems like it happens in Hanceville, and the police lied about it. And he was telling the story of what happened. There are so many things he said that I admire a lot. And it takes a lot of courage. Like for us men, because a lot of time when we go through certain things, we don't want to like show those emotions really. Because in some way, I don't want to just say society, but it's like if you show those emotions, like you cry or you weak, that's not true. I was fighting myself from not shedding any tears because I just didn't want to cry, but it's so sad. And it's not an accident. Usually they'll say, oh, it's an accident. It's not an accident. It starts from the top, just like he was saying. He was a manager at a top organization. Like, there has to be procedures to follow. And if those procedures are not being followed, then that means either there's no accountability or there's so little, the top don't care and they know about all of it, or they do care, but they just don't want to really take action because either they value the person so much where, okay, I'm not going to really, take action against that person because they've been there for so long. No, it's not like that. Like, these police officers work for us, but they get to abuse us, brutalize us, and then we just give them a pat in the back or give them a promotion. That's the other part I can't stand. They give them a promotion like they've done something good. Like, no, this is so wrong. See, they let him go. That's the action they took. They knew it was wrong. If it was the other way around, they would charge, just like they did the gentleman. They charged him with 2 counts. But anyways, this was really sad to watch. But I thank him for standing up because there are so many people, things like this happen and they're afraid to speak. And they don't even have the money to get a lawyer. That's the other part. Like, you gotta get a lawyer and then you gotta pay to get justice. When at the top, they should just fix all of this. Abolish qualified immunity because of qualified immunity, I think they have like a green light where, okay, I'm gonna abuse you. I don't care really what happens because nothing really gonna happen. So thank you guys for watching. I don't know why YouTube recommended this to me, but this was really good though. And it's also good to have good neighbors that come and check up on you. But it's so sad on many levels. This is what you did because of your perception. You assume he's gonna do something against you. That's not a law. You assume you're the one who came in his home unwarranted. But anyways, I'll see you guys in the next one. And take care now. Appreciate your time. Bye. Wow.